This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Israel's former Prime Minister Barak will face Amy Ayalon in the second runoff elections for the leadership of the Labour Party. This news comes after the two candidates failed to secure a first-round outright victory by falling short of the 40% votes needed. Barak, who came ahead by 5 points in the primaries, will likely fill in the position as the new leader of the Labour Party.
النتائج الرسمية لانتخابات زعامة حزب العمل ومع أنها أكدت هزيمة
The official results of the primaries in the elections for the leadership of the Labour Party show that Israel's Defense Minister Amir Peretz has lost to Ehud Barak and Amy Ayalon. However, competition continues to intensify between Admiral Amy Ayalon and General Ehud Barak after the latter won by a slight percentage in the primaries. Barak and Ayalon fell short of the 40% votes needed for an outright victory, thus setting the stage for a second round of political showdown.
كما يبدو حامية الوطيس.
هذه ستكون المعركة الحاسمة.
This is the real battle for Ehud Barak, who is trying to regain control of the Labour Party. If he wins in the second round, he will serve as Israel's defense minister, and then he will compete against Netanyahu for the office of the prime minister. It is Barak's real battle to return to political life.
The future of Olmert's government is hanging in the hands of the prevailing party in the second run of elections. While Ayalon vowed that he will not take part in Olmert's coalition and will form an alternate government, Barak said that he will serve in Olmert's government as defense minister until early elections are held. It seems that the Labour Party will be preoccupied in the next few months to render a decision of whether or not it will serve in Olmert's government.
I will do everything in my power to make sure that the Labour Party will not serve in the government. In 2 months, Vinograd will issue his final report, and then we will make a decision of what to do next. As far as I am concerned, it is not important who wins the elections.
وبانتقال الأدميرال والجنرال إلى الجولة الثانية تتصدر القضايا الأمنية.
General Barak and Admiral Ayalon, who are preparing to compete in the next phase of the elections, put security and military issues at the top of their agendas. Many Israelis expressed a desire to bring back military commanders to rule the country. This news comes in the aftermath of Olmert and Peretz's failure in the administration of the war on Lebanon. Peretz, who paid the price for his failure in Lebanon, can still play a role in the outcome of the second run of elections in a way that may appease to Olmert and prolong his reign.
Back to the Labour Party primaries. ABA's Jonathan Elkin spoke a short time ago to former advisor to Ehud Barak and former Consul General to New York, Alon Pinkas, about the significance of the Barak victory.
I was not entirely happy with the previous campaign's decision to maintain total silence. You cannot argue with the results, and some people are going to say, it's a valid argument, that his silence or refraining from making any kind of bold diplomatic / security related political statements got him votes. Having said that, you can't prove that this was the case, and I think that in a short 2-week runoff spin, which is what we're talking about until the 12th of June, I think he's going to have to speak up his mind in a very measured way. I would not advise him to speak more than once, twice, perhaps 3 times to the media on major issue that will play to his strength rather than his weakness. I would not advise him to talk about politics, about should I or should I not join the Olmert government, should I or should I not accept the defense ministry, should I or should I not facilitate early elections if I'm able to do so. But I would talk about my relative strength, which is security, national security, peace process, whatever that title entails these days, I certainly would not advise him to keep quiet for 2 whole weeks.
Polls put Amir Ayalon ahead in the runoffs. Do you think Barak can surprise people? And does he need the support of Amir Peretz to pull that off?
Well, that's a $64,000 question. The polls that you're referring to are polls that have been conducted a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. I don't know about new polls. I think that Barak will win this time. It's a head-to-head. It's about experience. It's about who's more suitable to be defense minister. Now, politically, does he need Amir Peretz's support? On the face of it, Amir Peretz got 22.5%, if I recall, of the vote. He needs part of those votes. I do not know, and I can't tell you with any kind of certainty, that any kind of alliance with Amir Peretz would benefit him, because Amir Peretz could prove very quickly to be an electoral liability rather than an asset. And secondly, or that derives from that, I don't know that these 22%, which is the equivalent of more or less 15,000 votes that he got, I don't know how many of them are going to turn out to vote in the runoff election, the second round on the 12th of June. And I don't know how many are going to actually listen and be disciplined and obedient to what Amir Peretz is asking them to do. So I would be very cautious, because Amir Peretz is going to have a price tag attached to his support. And he's going to ask for things that Ehud Barak may not be able to provide, nor for that matter Amir Ayalon. So it's a very, very tricky game right now of what needs to be done and how these alliances can be formed, or should they, to begin with, be formed.
Alon Pinkas, advisor to Ehud Barak, thanks very much for joining us today.
My pleasure, anytime.
Emergency aid workers said that Israeli soldiers shot and killed 2 activists from the Islamic movement Hamas during a battle that took place at the entrance of a Gaza Strip border crossing. The Israeli army said it is investigating the matter. Hamas confirmed these events, saying that its armed fighters were part of a gunfire exchange with Israeli soldiers less than a mile inside the middle portion of the Gaza Strip. Palestinians held a funeral service for the 2 martyrs of the Qassam brigades, who were killed when special Israeli forces, backed by military equipment, carried out an incursion near the Sufa crossing east of Rafah.
The special Israeli forces infiltrated from here under the cover of night and raided the home of the Al-Amur family, who lived through a night of fear, terror, and mistreatment. Markings of bullet holes covered the home. Only this mother and her child were inside. Her husband was absent because he was at work. Israel claims to have come to arrest him.
The special forces entered first. They yelled at us to get out of the house, lift my hands in the air, and open the windows. They said to go upstairs and open it. I told them there is no upstairs, there's a roof. They said go to the roof and raise your hands. They said to send out the man inside the house. I said there is no man. There is no man inside. 35 soldiers raided my house. There were only 2 people. How could they resist 35 soldiers, in addition to the others, who were outside in the jeeps and the tanks?
The resident of the house, who sustained light shrapnel wounds to her head, confirmed that the soldiers unleashed police dogs on the children before forcing her to look at the corpses of the martyrs outside the house. They demanded that she identify them and asked whether one of them was her husband. The 2 martyrs, Abdel Karim Shath and Mohammed Al-Ma'amar, were members of the Qassam brigades, which announced that they had ambushed and clashed with soldiers from the Israeli Special Forces, backed by military equipment and planes, who were carrying out an incursion. Eyewitnesses confirmed that the 2 men were tied with rope before they were killed.
We went out in the morning and found the 2 martyrs dead. May God have mercy on them. They were tied with ropes before they were shot in the neck. They were dead anyway. Why do they need to be tied up?
At the homes of the 2 martyrs, dozens of female relatives and friends gathered to offer condolences to the family, especially the mothers of the 2 martyrs. One of the mothers predicted what was going to happen when she heard the sound of the first missile being launched.
Before he left, he kissed me and said, "Forgive me, Mother." I said, "May God make it easy for you." He said, "Forgive me, Mother." I said, "May God make it easy for you, son." I knew that this would be his fate. I knew that he intended to become a martyr. But people, a child is precious. A child is precious.
Amidst shouts of anger and gunshots fired into the air, the story of the two martyrs ended with a funeral service following the afternoon prayers. Meanwhile, while Israeli attacks continue, the bloodshed of Palestinians, resistance fighters, and civilians will not stop, especially in the absence of any foreign pressure to restrain Israel and make it stop its attacks.
Hello, I'm David Foster. It's their first real public diplomacy in almost 3 decades. The United States and Iran face to face across a table. On the official agenda, a pressing common interest: how to achieve stability in Iraq. Washington says it wants Tehran to stop backing militants. Tehran wants the US out of Iraq. But much more's at stake. The standoff over Iran's nuclear program, for one thing, and the state's very obvious military build-up in the Gulf raises the spectre of Iran under attack. So what can these talks achieve? Well, after the meeting, Ryan Crocker, the US ambassador to Iraq, said he had laid out his country's demands to the Iranian government.
Their aims and goals, in terms very similar to our own policy, and very similar to what the Iraqi government has set as its own a set of guiding principles. So from that point of view, I would say that the talks proceeded positively. What we underscored to the Iranians, though, is that beyond principle there is practice, and what we need to see is Iranian actions on the ground come into harmony with their stated principles, because right now the actions that I described to them and that I just described to you are running at cross purposes to their own policy. So in terms of what happens next, I think we're going to want to wait and see.
Talks were held against the backdrop of a number of accusations traded between the two countries. Iran accusing the United States of sponsoring what it calls subversives and operating a spy network to carry out sabotage in sensitive border areas, of holding 7 Iranians who the US says are members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, Tehran insisting that they're diplomats. Iran also considers the US-led occupation force in Iraq a major cause of problems in the region. Well, for its part, the Bush administration accuses Iran and its Revolutionary Guard of supplying armed groups inside Iraq with armor-piercing roadside bombs that have been blamed for the deaths of many US soldiers, and of fomenting violence through its support of political extremist groups. In the State of the Union address in 2002, Mr. Bush outlined a US position on Iran which has changed little in 5 years.
Iran aggressively pursues these weapons and exports terror, while an unelected few repress the Iranian people's hope for freedom. States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil, arming to threaten the peace of the world. By seeking weapons of mass destruction, these regimes pose a grave and growing danger.
And on Thursday, the Iranian president defied US-led pressure on his country, which is centered around criticism of Iran's nuclear program.
Today, the Iranian nation has industrial nuclear technology. The path is light and clear, and in this path, our nation will not withdraw even one step.
Islamic Revolution leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told MPs on Tuesday Parliament needs to go ahead with a drive to overcome national problems, take anti-colonial policies on world issues, and coordinate efforts with government as it takes into account Iran's interests. The leader added the chamber is expected to pass a legally abiding piece of law to enforce the implementation of Constitution's Article 44. The leader said Iran does not let expansionist powers decide its future. The leader continued Parliament's last year in office should focus on Iran's needs, far from factional and regional tendencies. Iran's intelligence ministry is voicing concern over infiltration by aliens into scientific meetings and suspicious contacts foreign intelligence services establish with university professors in the country. An official with the ministry's anti-espionage department said today the spy networks uncovered by Iran were all guided by the US and British intelligence operatives who were active in the West, South and central parts of Iran. The agents used to collect classified information Iraq's occupiers have asked for. The official also said the espionage rings had plans to carry out sabotage, bombing, assassination, kidnapping and shooting up the sensitive centers in Iran. Moving on to the spies in Iran, Judiciary spokesman Alireza Jamshidi said Kian Tajbakhsh, who is working for the Soros Institute, is being held on charges of acting against Iran and spying for foreigners. As for Hale Esfandiari, he said she has been formally accused by the Intelligence Ministry of acting against the security of the country through propaganda and espionage for foreigners. He further rejected the news of detaining Nazi Azima, a CIA agent, and the Radio Farda correspondent, saying she faces the same charges but still remains at liberty. Foreign Minister Manouchehr Mottaki says recent events in Lebanon have been masterminded by those who failed to attain their goals during 33 days of war. Mottaki made the remarks in a meeting with former Lebanese MP Talal Arsalan on Tuesday, adding the region would witness new developments whose prospects would be to the benefit of the Middle East. The Lebanese envoy in turn said it is an enemy plot to endanger Lebanon's national unity and sow discord among ethnic groups, but that the Lebanese resistance to aggression thwarted their plots. Heavy clashes erupted Tuesday between army troops and Fatah al-Islam militants in a Palestinian refugee camp in northern Lebanon, the sharpest escalation after a week-long truce. The Lebanese army artillery pounded positions on the northern edge of the camp and near the Mediterranean coastline, apparently seeking to prevent any attempt by some militants to flee by sea. The renewed fighting came hours after a soldier was killed. The soldier was hit in the head by sniper fire Monday afternoon and later died in hospital. A car bomb exploded outside a prayer hall in southwestern Baghdad on Tuesday, killing 21 people and wounding 53 shortly after another attack killed 12. The blast came less than an hour after a suicide car bomb went off in a busy Baghdad square near a police patrol, killing at least 12 people. Meanwhile, a U.S. Army helicopter crashed in northern Iraq, killing 2 soldiers on board. The incident came after the U.S. military center said it has lost 6 soldiers across Iraq on Monday. EU Foreign Policy Chief Javier Solana is to meet Iran's top nuclear negotiator Ali Larijani in Madrid to discuss Iran's nuclear issue on Thursday. EU sources said Solana discussed Iran's nuclear issue with the foreign ministers of India and Pakistan, Pranab Mukherjee and Khurshid Kasuri, respectively, on the sidelines of the ASEM or Asia-EU meeting in Hamburg Tuesday.
الموت لازمة عراقية لا تبرح شوارعه اليوم حتى رحاله وسط العاصمة بغداد، حيث حصدت حافلة مفخخة أرواح 22.
Death never leaves the streets of Iraq. Today in Baghdad, a booby-trapped car killed 22 people and injured 58 others. Armed individuals wearing police uniforms kidnapped 3 German lecturers from the Ministry of Finance and a number of bodyguards. In addition, 33 bodies were found in different areas in Baghdad during the last 24 hours. They were killed execution style by unknown individuals.
بالإعدام نفذت كذلك بحق هؤلاء من قبل مجهولين.
Also today, the chief editor of the local Iraqi newspaper, Al-Hawadith, was assassinated by unknown armed individuals in North Kirkuk city. This event further proves that Iraq is the most dangerous place on earth for journalists and cameramen. 4 journalists were killed this month, increasing the number of journalists who have been killed since the invasion of Iraq to 300. We leave you with our reporter in Baghdad, Haidar Qasim.
Today's Iraq is the land of the missing truth. It may cost journalists their lives trying to find it. No wonder that the land of the 2 rivers now acquired a third name, the graveyard for journalists. For the 3rd consecutive year, Iraq has been at the top of the list as the most dangerous place for journalists.
220 journalists have been killed since the hated occupation forces invaded Iraq 4 years ago. Today, Iraqi journalists are being subjected to a historically unprecedented massacre.
Hundreds of journalists have been either assassinated or arrested, but that is not the only tragedy. Targeted Iraqi journalists leave their families vulnerable to displacement, poverty, and deprivation.
I suffered a great deal. I miss my husband. We're going through difficult living conditions, especially our financial situation. Our income is not enough for my son and I.
One cannot get answers to many questions in Iraq, but Iraqis who are entitled to know the truth have the right to know why journalists are being targeted. The truth, however, is hard to find in a country burdened with destruction.
As an Iraqi citizen, my question is why terrorists are always killing the journalists. Are they trying to kill the truth?
You can be killed just by trying to do a simple errand, visiting relatives during a holiday, or even buying something from a market like this one. That is the reality facing journalists who decided to practice their profession in the most dangerous place on earth. If you are a journalist, you have 2 choices. Either practice one of the noblest professions or become a hostage to fear. Let it be known, though, fear is not necessarily going to save your life in today's Iraq. In an attempt to create distraction while planting roadside bombs in the district of Mendli, a terrorist group targeted several children from a local elementary school.
Several children were martyred and wounded after a multinational warplane fired missiles at the terrorists who fled the scene.
These weeping women are the mother and the sisters of 11-year-old Mustafa, a 3rd-grade student at the Adhaf Elementary School in the district of Mendli. Mustafa, who was returning home from his school, was martyred in an airstrike by the multinational forces. Mustafa, whose father passed away not long ago, lived with his mother and 8 sisters in the village of Saida, or Happiness, in the district of Mendli, which is located 4 kilometers away from his school.
لعائلة تتكون من 8 بنات وأب متوفى.
Mustafa was on his way home from school when he was hit by a missile. Why did they do this to him? I ask God to have mercy on him.
According to eyewitnesses, the children from the Adhaf Elementary Boys and Girls School were on their way home when they came under attack. Contrary to what some satellite channels have reported, the witnesses confirmed that the incident took place in an area far from the school.
The students went to school, but did not attend classes because the teachers did not report to school on that day. At 9 a.m., they returned home. While they were walking near the village of Saada, a U.S. warplane fired missiles at them. Several children were killed and 3 others were wounded.
The children were coming home from school when United States warplanes fired missiles at them. As you can see, this is their blood and these are the books they left behind. Some children were martyred.
The head of the multinational forces in Diala province expressed regret and said that his army is conducting an investigation and the pilot involved in the incident is being questioned. He added that they will treat and compensate the victims involved in the incident.
We never engaged a school, we never engaged a building because there were innocent people reported to have been hurt and killed. We are fully investigating it.
Meanwhile, the residents in the village of Saida, in the district of Mindli in Diala province, complained over the lack of public services and bad infrastructure, where most streets are not paved, and demanded the Iraqi government pay attention to their problems.
We demand that the Iraqi government provide us with schools and a clinic. Our town is large and spread out, and therefore we need a clinic.
قرية السعادة اسم على غير مسمى بعد أن نكبت أهلها بفلذات أكبادهم ناهيك عن واقع القرية.
Amidst the killings of its children, happiness is hard to come by in a village ironically named Saida, which means happiness. This news comes as the village continues to suffer from the lack of public services. The residents whose children were martyred in the district of Mindli called on the Iraqi government to compensate them for their losses. By the same token, they also pleaded to local officials to provide them with adequate public services. Mu'in al-Qadhimi, the head of Baghdad's district council, said that the plan to re-establish public services in Karkh area, in Haifa and Setta streets, as well as the Karama hospital, is going forward. We leave you with Idris Jawad.
It seems that the Karkh area in Baghdad is gaining more attention from those in charge of implementing the enforcing the rule of law security plan. Despite security breaches in some areas, in Karkh, like Haifa and Setta streets, Al-Karama hospital and neighboring areas, these areas have witnessed a notable improvement both in security and public services.
Businesses have opened, except for those whose owners left a long time ago. They left the country, but there is a great deal of traffic in the market, thanks God.
Yes, we have security. We can go out to places, but we still don't have electricity and power.
We are providing security to the hospital premises. We have security patrols in the morning on Setta Street. Residents of the area are cooperating with us, thank God.
We are patrolling the streets and the citizens are cooperating with us. The situation is very good.
Members of Baghdad's district council toured these areas, and the council's president, Mu'in al-Qadhim, said that the plan to re-establish public services is going forward. He also said that the results are relatively good, especially when considering how bad the security situation in these areas used to be a short time ago.
These areas are important. While we are implementing the enforcing the rule of law security plan, we are also providing public services. During our trip to these areas, we noticed that the employees are serious in doing their duty in these important municipalities in Baghdad's district.
The council members also visited the reconstruction site of a Sarifiyya bridge. Those in charge of the reconstruction said that they are going to rebuild the bridge as soon as possible.
We are going to use the original design. We are not going to use cement. We are going to use the same girders in rebuilding the bridge. There will be a few modifications to utilize a new technology in using bolts and expansion joints.
It has been 3 months since enforcing the rule of law security plan has started. Both Iraqi citizens and officials believe that the plan has led to tangible results. They hope that the coming days will bring a great deal of reconstruction. Idris Jawad, Sumaria Satellite Television.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. This program was brought to you by Link TV, for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.